Number one, I'm 100% not an expert at long range shooting, and I'm probably gonna mispronounce things. I might say things incorrectly, and I ask that you guys help me out and correct me in the comments. This is the Bergara B14R trainer. It's essentially the Bergara B14 HMR, but it's chambered in a rimfire caliber. And the one that I have here in particular is their 22 long rifle, but it's also available in 17 HMR as well as 22 WMR. The whole reasoning behind this rifle is so that you can go out to the range, actually learn how to shoot long range without spending a ton of money on ammo. You know, as of right now, 6.5 Creedmoor, 6mm Creedmoor, just kind of, obviously ammo is gonna be expensive regardless. But when you get into long range ammo, even if you're hand loading it at home, which we will hopefully get to in the future, I'll cover that in a bit. But getting some factory new match grade ammo, anywhere from $1.50 to $2 a round, you might be able to find it cheap. So when you're out shooting, you don't wanna waste $2 every time you pull that trigger to get over that learning curve. Instead, it's much better to spend a lot less money. We'll talk about the ammo that I'm gonna use in here, but essentially it's identical in almost every single way to the Bergara HMR, which a lot of people may know this, or some people may not. It's a sub MOA gun, and they cost right around the $1,000 mark. And this one is absolutely the same. The one thing that I do like about the trainer better is it comes in gray instead of the ugly brown color that the one thing that I like about this trainer, more so than I like about the full calibered version, is I like the gray chassis. On the full caliber models, they only come in like a brown color, and I'd much rather have gray. I have not shot this yet because I've been waiting for parts for probably the past 2 months or so. I've had this gun laying around, but I was waiting on a scope and some scope rings, which we'll cover a little bit more here in a second, but this is gonna be the trainer. So I'm gonna go out to the desert with this guy, get some trigger time with it, and I can learn how to collect dope. I can learn how to hold windage and elevation at a fraction of the cost. Now, the coolest part about this is it's completely compatible with all Remington 700 parts. So as an example, let's say you bought this gun. You can get a different Remington 700 upper and just swap onto there. And all you have to do is loosen this screw here and this screw here, and you can completely swap out the barreled action in the trigger. What's cool about that is, say you don't really have the money to build 2 rifles, you could always just get one other upper. So if you bought the B14 HMR, you get the 22 long rifle or other rimfire caliber uppers, slap it on there, put a scope on it, get it zeroed and leveled. And then when you wanna actually go out and shoot your big calibers, you can swap it out. I mean, that's one way to do it. One thing I've done on here, I did get this new scope. This is from a company called Zero Tech. And this scope isn't completely ideal, but I'm gonna be doing all of my scopes in MRAD. As I'm going through the process of learning about long range shooting, I am gonna be learning in MRAD/MILDOT. Now, this is an oversimplification, and we'll get into it in more detail in future videos, but the difference between like MILDOT and MOA is kind of the same difference between what we get in the American system of math versus the metric system. Not saying that this is the metric system. I'm just saying that's a good analogy to use when you're comparing the differences. And like with the metric system, for example, because I took a ton of science courses in college, I gotten really used to converting milliliters and deciliters and all that kind of stuff. So I like that it's all based on 10. It's a lot easier for me. But I've never dealt with MRAD before, and so we're gonna learn about that as we go through the process. So I needed an MRAD scope for the 22 long rifle. I didn't need anything that really reached out too far because, again, it's 22 long rifle. And this one isn't a first focal plane. I would like it to be first focal plane because the scope that's going on my custom build that we're gonna talk about in a minute is first focal plane. In case you don't know the difference on a second focal plane, when you increase the magnification, the reticle stays the same size, and on first focal plane, the reticle enlarges as you zoom in. We'll get into that in future videos. But this is a nice little gun, considering the price of it. It's got a pretty nice little smooth action here. Very nice. It comes with one magazine, 10 rounds, that holds the 22 long rifle or whatever caliber that you choose. These do not come with this pick rail already installed. However, I did request to have it installed because I didn't want to deal with, mounting this just in case I had to do any drilling and tapping. So I don't think that you would have to do any drilling and tapping to install this, but I just had them do it from the factory just to be safe. The rings that I have on here are from Warren. I was waiting on those to arrive. I got them all torqued down to the perfect settings. And then the The stock is completely adjustable. You got your cheek riser right here, and you can adjust your length of pull. There's these holes in the back, and you just put in a Phillips head screwdriver, unscrew the screws, and you can pull out these little sections here. So I've removed one section so far. You got a QD point here. I forgot what these mounts are called, but they're, you know, basically for bipods and stuff, but not that you're gonna put a bipod back here. But up here on the front, you have a mount here, and then the front mount right here is where I currently have this bipod. I don't remember the brand name of this bipod, unfortunately, but it is a good one. It's not like super cheap, but it's not like super expensive either. But it works really well. I previously had this on my Palmetto State Armory 308 AR-10, and I just kind of popped it off, put it on here so we can go out to the range and learn how to shoot long range. Now, the interesting thing about this is although it is a .22 long rifle, it is very heavy, and it's just as heavy as the B14 HMRs. I think this is 9.2 pounds, and the HMRs are actually like 9.5 to 9.9 pounds, depending on which configurations you get. And this one does come either with a steel barrel or a carbon fiber barrel. I chose the steel barrel. I wasn't really worried about carbon fiber in this instance. Let's see what the trigger pull's at. I just want to do a trigger pull test. I know you're not supposed to dry fire .22 long rifle, but it'll live. I think I overpulled that, but that pulled at about 2.4 pounds. Let's do another one just to verify. Another thing I noticed right here on the back is you do have a cocked indicator right next to your safety tab that's right here. And so you know when you're cocked and ready to go just by that sticking out. I thought that was kind of nice. Yep. So I did overpull it. This is exactly a 2-pound trigger, so I definitely overpulled it the first time. The ammo I got for this, I got a couple different types. I want to give a big shout out. This ammo is not cheap by any means. I believe it's like 50 cents a round. And for a .22 long rifle, that's quite expensive, but compared to $2 a round for the big stuff, just to learn, it's a quarter of the cost for shooting. Ely, I got this stuff, 40 rounds, 40 grain. I got 150 rounds of that. And then we got some SK. I got some long range match ammo, and it says for targets 100 yards and beyond. That's pretty interesting, shooting .22 long rifle beyond 100 yards. That should be a fun experience. And then they got some other stuff, which is rifle match grade, but it's not for beyond 100 yards. And I'll get more as we commence the testing here and everything, but I just wanted to show you the ammo that I got. I want to give you guys a heads up. If you see anything in this video that you want to check the price, the first link pinned in the comments or the first link in the description, and that'll take you to a list where you can find everything that we're talking about. So let's get this out of the way. Let's get to the big stuff. All right, I want to get the biggest thing out of the way first. This right here is a barreled action from a company called Area 419. This is the most expensive part of this entire build. This is actually a Brownells exclusive. You know how Brownells likes to do exclusives of everything. And let me get this thing out of the box and make sure I have everything. One thing I do have to invest in soon is a really long case for this guy. So before I tell you about this, I gotta forewarn you guys. This custom build is very expensive, and I didn't expect it to be very expensive. This is the Area 419 Defiance Tenacity Barreled Action. One thing you should know about these, they only come in one length. That's a 24-inch barrel, but they do come in multiple calibers. You got 6.5 Creedmoor, they come in 6mm Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC, 300 Winchester, and 223 Remington. This one that we have is in 6mm Creedmoor. I was originally gonna get a 6.5 Creedmoor, but they've been out of stock and I didn't wanna wait for the back order. And you know, I was looking at prices between 6mm and 6.5, and they're not that far off from each other. And from what people have been saying, 6mm Creedmoor tends to be a little bit better of a round than 6.5. I'm not gonna debate it. I'm not an expert enough to debate it, but it is a very nice action. You can see the bolt right here. It is fluted. I don't know that much about it. I'm gonna be real with you guys. Like, I'm probably not doing this barreled action enough justice. But one thing I will say, this muzzle brake that it comes with is self-timing. So you can actually loosen this with your hands and you can actually time it yourself and then crank it down. And all you gotta do is hand tighten it. And once it's hand tight, it doesn't come off. But the reason they made it that way is it comes off very easily. So if you wanna throw a can on it and suppress it a little bit, you can do that with no problem. I do wanna ask you guys a question, and maybe you guys can answer it in the comments for me. This was in the box. Can you tell me what this is? It almost looks like one of those gauges that you gap spark plugs with, but I don't know what it is. I'll be real with you guys. If you guys could tell me, I'd love to hear what that is, or at least what the official name of it is. All right, moving on. Let's get to the other parts here. Also in the box here is an Atlas V8 standard height bipod. And I didn't know much about this bipod until I looked up how much it cost, and it's very expensive. But I'll have links for all this stuff, like I said, over at the parts list, but don't know much about that. 10-round magazine made, called an Accurate Mag. Who knows? 10-round mag, that's always better than 5 rounds. For the trigger, this is the diamond flat trigger from Trigger Tech. It is for Remington 700s, right-handed without bolt release. So that's kind of cool. I got the flat shoe. They also have curved shoes, but it has the safety built into it, and I will put this stuff together here in a bit. For the scope, this is, I've had this scope for quite a while. This is the Brownell's Magnified Precision Optic. And this is a first focal plane mil-dot scope that goes from 5 power all the way up to 25 power. I would say this is on par with some of the Vortex scopes, you know, like the PSTs and stuff like that. One of the gentlemen that I spoke to that knows a lot about long range shooting, he wasn't one of the guys that worked at Brownell's. He was a different friend of mine, but I asked him what to look for in a scope, and he said, hey, you know, the most important thing you need to get is repeatable turrets. He said everybody's worried about eye relief. He said, yes, that eye relief's important. He said people are worried about clarity. He's like, of course, clarity is important, but it's not as important as having repeatable turrets. And what he means is when you get this thing zeroed, and let's say you have to adjust your reticle up or down or left or right, when you return it back to the zero, is it actually back at true zero? And he said a lot of the cheaper scopes don't do that. From what I'm told from people that I know that have shot these scopes from Brownell's, these do have really good turrets, but I can't tell you that from firsthand experience, which is why we're doing this series. This is made in Japan. A lot of the higher end scopes, like Vortex and stuff, have all theirs made in Japan with Japanese glass. This scope I do believe is about $1,000, but they always have really good promo codes, so I'll be sure to include all that stuff over at the parts list for you. But it is illuminated, and it has, I think, about 6 levels of illumination. It's not daylight bright, but it's still pretty nice to have, especially like early morning or at dusk when you're shooting at those times of day. Now, for the scope mount, they sent me this mount here called a Spur ISMS. Now, what's really cool about this scope, I'm gonna show you real fast. So let's pretend that this thing is on the gun. You're gonna notice this little square cutout right there, and that is for this fella. And this fella here slides in while this thing, you make sure it's all mounted and stuff. And essentially what it does is it makes sure that this scope will be 100% level, and you don't even need a bubble level. Of course, you can get a bubble level, set it on top, make sure that it's level and stuff, but these are very nice. But don't fret if you don't have this kind of mount. You'll notice on this mount that this little cutout here is actually ramped. And when it's in place, it is 100% level every single time. Yeah, that's really nice, but the downside, this mount costs $400. So what if you don't have $400 and you don't want to deal with these bubble levels? So on this rifle, I actually leveled my scope in the very same manner as I did the Spur, but this one didn't have that level. So I bought this aftermarket one. I think it's called the Ariska Optic Leveler. I got this thing fairly cheap, and it arrived in like a day or two, so that was pretty cool. So you take this guy here, and you place it on top of your pick rail, and then they come with 2 different wedges, kind of depending on how high your scope is. And then you can take this piece here, slide it in, and it will do the exact same thing as the Spur scope mount will do. And like I said, this thing was like $27, I think, and you can use it almost on any scope leveling system. I'm not gonna say all of them, but anything that uses rings. I did find with a lot of the cantilever mounts and stuff, it's kind of more difficult for this to be used, but definitely a really good investment, especially if you don't want to spend 400 bucks. Let's move on here to the second most expensive part of this build, which is the chassis system. This is from Modular Driven Technologies. This is their ACC chassis. I got it in black because everything else was out of stock. There's that. That looks really nice. I'm very excited to put this thing together. That was something that I did want, was a very nice chassis system. It also comes with their skeletonized adjustable buttstock right here. You can adjust the height up here. You can adjust the length of pull back here. Very easy. Now, I'm not saying this to bash anybody, but just removing that one divider out of this buttstock right here on the Bergara, that took me like 10 minutes, because one, I'd never done it before, but you know, you got to use the Phillips head up here and down here. You can kind of see if you can see the holes. They're very small. And that took a while to, you know, be able to bring my length of pull in a little bit. And plus, I'm kind of limited to only these 3 sections. And not only that, if you want to go longer, you have to get a new kit that has longer screws and stuff, which cost more money because you have to order those from the guys at Bergara. And nothing against them, just saying. But on this bad boy right here, you can do all kinds of cool stuff. So you just turn these little knobs here. But anyways, you start turning that wheel, you'll start seeing that butt pad increasing your length of pull. And then when you're done, you just crank these guys back down. And the same thing applies for the cheek rest when you're wanting to get that perfect. And in that box, it also comes with a vertical grip, you know, so you can grip it and shoot it. Now let's talk about a couple of other things. I don't have a reloader, nor do I know anything about reloading. So I'm gonna be using factory ammo. I just went to the store the other day. I think I went to a Sportsman's or something like that. And I just picked these guys up, right? Like this was all they had. And they were not cheap. So that's 20 rounds here and 20 rounds here. This cost me 98 bucks for 40 rounds. I don't know if it was worth it. I probably got ripped off. Who knows? But here's my question to you guys out there in YouTube land, especially if you know about long range shooting. One, what is the best 6mm that's a factory load for shooting long range? I'd love to hear your feedback because I don't know. I'm gonna text some people and figure it out, but I would love to hear what you guys think. However, moving forward, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I did order a new workbench, and that's gonna be the area where I film my courses and stuff. And it's also gonna be a place where I can start creating videos about hand loading and reloading ammo. And because I need a place to mount it and I'm limited on space. So I'll make a video about that coming soon. I just want you guys to know, I will get into hand loading, just not now. The next thing that we need to talk about is training. I don't really have the time to go get in-person training right now. In the future, I 100% want to, and I'm gonna try to get training with some of the best people that I can find. In the meantime, aside from my friends that I kind of have that I talk to and text and ask questions about, I'm gonna be using 3 sources of knowledge. The first one is gonna be this book here called The Long Range Shooting Handbook by Ryan Kleckner. If you've done any type of long range shooting, you already know who this guy is. So I'm not gonna do a bio and introduction, but he's an expert. He wrote this book as a way to demystify the myths and the learning curve involved for newbies getting into long range shooting, which this applies to me because I'm a complete noob. I'm gonna go through this book as we go through this video series, and I'm gonna take things that I learn and apply them, and then you guys can learn along with me. I'll make sure to put a link to this book down in the description below, just in case you wanna get one. The second form of training that we're gonna be using is Ryan Kleckner is actually on the Warrior Poet Network. I'm a part of the Warrior Poet Network. Not only do I pay the $10 a month to be a part of it, but they also host some of my YouTube videos on there as a way for people to have free content on their platform, because the Warrior Poet Network is insanely well filmed. Just as an example, some of the cameras that they use to film on the Warrior Poet Network cost upwards of $110,000, just to put that out there. The slow motion camera, probably $140,000 camera. $10 a month when you're getting content that's shot with that's filmed with a $140,000 camera, not too bad. But Ryan Kleckner has 2 video series on their network right now that you can watch. There's a part 1 and a part 2. And in the first part, he kind of goes through a bunch of the basics. And then in the second part, he goes through more things that you can learn while you're actually out shooting. I highly recommend that. The third source of information that I'm going to be using is, I had an opportunity to meet Peter from Impact Shooting. You guys should check out his channel. I'll link it down below. Peter is a professional competitive shooter, and he knows a lot about bolt guns and long range shooting. And he has a course on Teachable right now, and I'll be sure to link to that. However, this is something you should know. Ryan Kleckner's course is more about hunting and more about self-defense, and Peter's class is more about competitive shooting. Now, obviously, there's gonna be principles and things that you can learn that can apply to across the board, but then there's gonna be some nuances for competitive shooting that you're not gonna have in hunting and self-defense, and vice versa, so keep those things in mind. Moving forward in this series, I'm running into a problem here. I literally have 1 week left before it gets insanely hot outside here in Arizona. And every summer when it gets hot, we go into fire restriction mode. And whenever we go into fire restriction mode, that means I'm kind of limited to indoor ranges. Now, when there's fire restrictions, there are some outdoor ranges here that I can use. The problem is that camera that I'm filming on right now doesn't last more than 10 to 15 minutes in the heat before it automatically shuts itself off to prevent it from burning up, essentially. It's a safety feature with cameras so the batteries don't explode. So I'm gonna go out this week. I'm gonna get some first shots with this custom gun. I'm gonna get some first shots with the Bergara, and then I'm not gonna be able to shoot outdoors again until October. It kind of bums me out. You know, I started working on this series back in February, hoping that I would get the parts a lot quicker, but I just now got all of the parts needed for this series. But this series, I'm not gonna rush it. It's gonna be just a learn with me kind of deal. Like I said earlier, I really hope that we can learn a lot. Also, moving forward in this series, I am gonna be testing other types of parts. You know, as an example, like right now, I'm using this Brownell's Match Precision Optics, right? Well, I do have another scope that also came from Zerotech, who I have on my Bergara. So this is a 4.5 to 27 magnification. I don't know if it's illuminated or not, but it is mil-dot and it is first focal plane. It's actually Zerotech's first FFP scope, and it's called the Trace. These retail for about $1,200. This one retails for about $1,000. So maybe we can do a compare contrast in the future, or maybe we'll do another build. This build's coming out to be so expensive that maybe I should do a mid-level build and then we'll use this scope. Or maybe we should do a cheaper build. I don't know. Let me know what you think down below. Additionally, we are gonna be testing other chassis systems and stuff. We'll also have another trigger coming in, and that trigger's coming from Timney. So I might as well just do a separate build, maybe a more budget-friendly build. I mean, just wanna let you know, we're not gonna just focus on parts. We're not just gonna focus on skills. We're gonna focus on everything together. And I don't have a time limit on this series. The series is gonna go as long as it takes. So I will tell you guys this, the number one most crazy thing about this build is the price. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't know what I was getting. I just asked one of the guys to put something together for me and help me choose parts, and he threw all this stuff in a box and sent it to me. And I'm very grateful for that. But you do not need all of this expensive stuff in order to get sub MOA groups at beyond 1,000 yards or so. You really don't. This is a bunch of nice to have stuff, and I feel very grateful and blessed to be able to test these products and just shoot these products. But you can go get a $1,000 Bergara and do the same thing, just to be real with you. Everything from this barreled action to this scope to this mount, this trigger, this bipod, it comes out to $5,896.64, which, as I said in the title of the video and in the beginning of the video, this is the most expensive gun that I've ever owned. It seems surreal when you think about that. Like, I don't think you can in 2022, but back when I was just a few years ago, you could buy a car for that price. So that's crazy. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Let me know if I screwed up a bunch of stuff in today's video. But until next time, guys, I love you. You guys stay sexy.